Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Sabor, a Latinx slash Hispanic panel moderated by me, MarisolLords, Darling Waistline. We have a lovely range of talent today. We have, I'll let them introduce themselves. Whoever would like to start, we'll go alphabetical order with Elix.
Hi everyone, ¿cómo están mis amores? I'm Elix here on Twitch. In drag, I'm Elix. I am a Mexican American first generation. I'm super excited to be here and cannot wait for the questions later on.
Lesbiana.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lesbiana. My drag name is Lesbiana. I go by they, them. Non-binary drag artist here on Twitch. I am first generation Mexican American as well. So yes.
Diana.
Hi, everybody. My name is Miss Diana Hole, the Hole of the Town, the one your mother warned you about. I am a Cuban American, and my pronouns are she, they.
Minx Queen.
My name is Minx DeMilo. I am also a first generation Mexican American, and my pronouns are she, her, they, them.
And once again, I'm MarisolLords. My pronouns are they, them, and I am Peruvian. I don't know what generation I am because I wasn't born here. But, anyways, while we start getting into this panel, I would like to kind of just say a couple of terms regarding the panel itself, such as Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, and some key takeaways from those. So, starting off, Hispanic. Hispanic refers to people from Spain or Spanish speaking origin. For example, Hispanic would include people from Spain, but not Brazil, where Portuguese is like predominantly spoken. Latino is a term that is kind of goes by location, so it's more of a Latin America. So you have like the Caribbeans, you have North, South, and Central, kind of like that. And then Latinx is only recently been popularized. It's more of a gender neutral term to describe other than Latino or Latina, which are very gendered. Um, so just getting into our beginning topics, we're going to talk kind of some history, some identity. For everyone in the panel, do you identify as Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latinx? And then we'll start off with Elix.
Hey again. So I would say, and coming into this country, like I never thought we had to identify as a certain, I don't know. I just see a lot of these labels as boxes, but I would have to say Latinx. My nationality is Mexican. My parents are from Mexico, from Nayarit and Mexicali, Baja California. Woo woo. Um, One of my favorite things, I guess, about just being Hispanic is just coming to this country and having to create my really own identity since it doesn't align with anything else. And yeah.
Lesbiana.
Yes. I would say that I also would identify as Latinx. My parents are also from Mexico. And my mother is from Chihuahua, and my dad is from Durango. Um, what else? Let me see. I'm trying to think of what else. I was actually born here in the US. So yeah.
Diana.
I identify as Latinx as well. My parents are both from Cuba, from Havana, and my mom is also got a little bit of Puerto Rican from Rio Piedra, and I was born here. However, my siblings, they were not born here. Um, so yeah.
Minx.
I also identify as Latinx. I was born here, but my parents were both born in Mexico in like small little towns.
And then I was born in Peru. Back to where I trace back. All of my family has been born in Peru. We were kind of on the north coastal side, and then we migrated to the U.S. in like early 2000s. So, what are some cultural thing sorry, let me actually read the question. What is your favorite part about your cultural identity, and what are some traditions you partake in and want others to know about? And this is kind of just like a free for all. Whoever would like to start.
For me, so with cultural identity, I think it's very interesting, especially if you're a first generation in the United States. I know, at least for me, coming to such a foreign land where the culture is completely different, the language is completely different, just the way people treat each other and speak to each other is so different from just me being Mexican and living in Mexico and just coming to the United States, that you kind of create your own cultural identity, and just go with it and kind of tailor it to really align with you and how you're growing and developing and how you're reacting to your environment. Second, all some traditions that I love celebrating. I think it's Nochebuena, which is like Christmas Eve. Just the way we do it in Mexico, or at least my family does it, is we do like tamales. We do just so many different foods, menudo, pozole. That's one of my favorite things that I love to partake in when we all get together. And I miss this because I used to go to Mexicali, Baja California every single Christmas and summer and spend with all my family. We would all get together. But with times right now, especially with COVID, we're not able to. Another tradition of mine that surprisingly a lot of people don't know about, and this isn't really Mexican, it's more of a Spaniard tradition, and it's coming up for New Year's, is eating 12 grapes for the new year. And so each grape signifies each month. And so you're supposed to, it brings fortune, it brings good luck, and it brings good sex. So you want to make sure that I believe the first minute of the new year or the minute right before the new year, you're fucking eating all of those grapes instantly. Boom, 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 boom. And so that's one of my, those are some of the traditions that I partake in every single year. Puro Mexicali.
I think another thing too, like we definitely growing up, we've did a lot of those things, and then another thing was find like with the bread and like the slices and like hoping you get the little man like in your slice of bread, like not knowing what it was for about, but like you saw everyone get excited for it, so you just like you always wanted like that to be your piece.
I think also for like my family, since my family is very religious as far as my mom's side and my dad's side, with the Catholic religion and just Mexican culture, there were times where whenever we would spend time with them, we would have to sing these songs to Jesus, to baby Jesus, and it would go on for hours. But that was just the culture.
Yeah, honestly, like when it comes to my family, it's the same as Elix with Noche Buena. We have our arroz imperial, we have our maduro, like the whole feast, and then we're out back for the entire day, cooking the whole thing in la caja china, and it's just a great experience. Like that's my favorite part. That's why I love this time of year, because I get to see family I've never really get to see during the rest of the year. So it's a great time to finally get like that whole gathering. Although this year it's going to be a little harder because of COVID, but it is what it is.
Perfect. Well, let's get into some kind of conversation about, since we're all drag artists here, kind of our drag aesthetic and how our culture has impacted that. So, like, the question itself is, how has your cultural upbringing, has it had an impact on your drag aesthetic, on your drag style, or do you kind of take away from other like cultural identities? Whoever.
I think for me, in the beginning of my drag career, I didn't incorporate it as much. I think I kind of started to do so more when my grandpa passed away, and I kind of wanted to almost like keep his life alive through the drag. So that's why I tried to like incorporate it more in like certain music or like outfits or things like that. Like I try to put more emphasis on doing like different, Hispanic and Latin artists, more than I did when I first started.
For me, I'm so sorry, Minx, were you done?
No, you're good.
So for me, a lot. So I grew up with telenovelas growing up in Mexico and then coming to the United States. I mean, I feel like I held on to a lot of my culture through telenovelas. And so seeing the fashion from the late 80s, early 90s, I'm an 80s baby, grew up in the late 80s and early 90s. I saw a lot of, a lot of the musicians like Lucerito or Lucero, Rocio Durcal with the big puffy shoulders, a lot of glittery jumpsuits, which were very drag oriented, especially coming from Yuri. If you guys remember Yuri, she was a singer and she was, also in a lot of telenovelas. That really influences the way I design my outfits. So I like to modernize, a take on the late 80s or early 90s, but really make it now and modernize it. One of my jumpsuits that I used for DragCon and TwitchCon, if you guys have seen the picture, it's all this velvet with a bunch of, glittery sequin. And that was really inspired by Yuri and Rocio Durcal when she did her tour in Spain. Hopefully you guys know the people I'm talking about. And these were just amazing influences to me, at least from a fashion perspective, but also a huge influence were the villains in novelas and just how regal they were and how bitchy they were too, and just how mean and evil. So a lot of that is also sprinkled and articulated in everything that we create for my drag.
I think for me, I know that with my drag, I'm still trying to figure out just more little aesthetic things that I could do to bring in my Mexican heritage. Along with Minx, I do try to kind of incorporate different styles of music to either perform to or to use with other things. And I've kind of wanted to model my aesthetic after another king by the name of Tenderoni. Tenderoni tends to have like that kind of suave and like smoothness to their drag, and so I kind of want to model myself after that.
When it comes to my drag aesthetic, I try to bring in my culture as much as I can. I would like to do more with it. I did just start drag on Twitch this past year. Actually, it's a year of doing drag on Twitch, so I don't have much, but I'm trying to. I was actually telling everybody before that I was trying to get a dress made for this. Made out of linen. It was un guayabera, basically, and try and get that made. But there was no way that was going to get done in time. And I wanted to do this whole like number because I grew up with my mom listening to Celia Cruz, just blasting that every party. It's a party the moment you walk in and Celia's blasting in the back, and todo el viejo está bailando ahí. It's amazing, and I want to try and do more of that in my drag.
Gotcha. For me myself, I don't incorporate a lot of my own culture into my drag, mainly because I grew up in Peru, where it's very like ponchos and like there's a beautiful dress called the marinera, which I don't know if they have this in like other different countries, which is it's like a nice flowy style of dance. It's almost like folklore. I don't know how to say it. But myself, like I grew up in Miami. I grew up in Miami Beach, and so I mostly take up. My upbringing is mostly kind of mixed around growing up in Miami. Like I grew up around a lot of Cuban heritage. I grew up a lot of my like step family is Colombian, so I grew up with a lot of Colombian heritage, and even my own growing up Peruvian. Like I didn't do that, so this is giving you Cuban housewife today, not Peruvian housewife. But just Diana, you mentioned that you just started here on Twitch. Getting into Twitch itself, and I'll start kind of with you. And this is a question for the whole panel. Does your audience receive well to receive your cultural aesthetic well? Like if you do incorporate into your streams, or do you sense that you get a little pushback if you're not like predominantly like Caucasian?
Honestly, I haven't noticed a pushback, but I'm also a small creator still. most of the people they actually embrace it, which I really enjoy. They I haven't received any pushback as of yet, and I haven't perceived it, but I'm really happy that actually I've received such a good response, especially since a lot of the uh, drag influences that got me to start are actually they aren't American, and they speak English, but it's not their first language.
Minx, would you like to continue?
I haven't like I feel like I haven't showcased a lot of my heritage on stream too much. I talk about certain things like here and there, like in regards to like family. I think I maybe dragging myself with. I think I like lip synced Selena. That might be like the most I've like showcased on my stream so far. Um, but I think people, at least in our community, I feel that people are usually pretty open to it. You know, it's I've never really seen whether it's mine or like even in Elix's stream, I never really see like a pushback or anyone like question it. Like even if they don't understand anything, they're just kind of just like hyping Elix up. Like I don't know what she's saying, but like work, bitch. And so I feel like they embrace it. At least in the communities that we're a part of.
Elix?
So no, I've not really. I mean, if we're talking about just community and people who really know me and come to my stream regularly, absolutely not. I mean, when we have trolls, there's going to be pushback regardless of how you're presenting. But in regards to the cultural aesthetic, I incorporate a lot of my culture into my looks. I remember I did this look of like an East LA Chola girl, because those are the girls I grew up with. And I just love them so much. I did this look. My partner helped me put it together, and I got just so much praise because I was covered in tattoos. I had the whole Chola hair, makeup, and it was just so amazing. And the community just, was praising it, loved it. I did another one that was like to the T from a novela from Marimar. If you guys remember Talia from Marimar, I did a look that just looked like one of the villainesses, and a lot of people recognized it, and people really had fun with it. They loved it. So no, in regards to that, no pushback at all. Just people really promoting it, wanting to see more. And I love that if I'm injecting my culture and people are seeing that, especially people who mainly live in areas that there's no culture in some areas of the United States, in some very rural areas. So if they're seeing someone of color that is promoting this and pushing their culture into their aesthetic, it really helps people open their eyes and be more accepting and really have an understanding of other cultures other than themselves. It really feeds them multiple perceptions. So I love that.
Amazing. Les, anything to add?
Yeah, just like same with Minx and Elix, like I haven't really showcased a lot of my heritage in my stream, but I don't think that I would get any pushback as far as people that come into my stream and everything like that. I think that they would probably want to see more of that within my stream. And if I really could, I would definitely, especially with music. If I really could, I would definitely try to showcase a lot of music and yeah.
Perfect. Well, last question regarding kind of like getting into like the Twitch side of things. Kind of like an icebreaker, like what are games that everyone loves to play? Like for myself, I play a lot of Dead by Daylight. I also like playing some Mario Kart. I'll start with Lesbiana. What games do you like to play?
Definitely with Marisol and Mings, I always end up playing DVD with them. I think I have played a couple of matches with Elix. I'm not too sure. But I also like to play Pokemon. I've done some like card openings on my stream. I do like a lot of like the BioShock series and as well as the Diablo series.
Diana?
I like to play a lot of Dead by Daylight. I play a lot of like Sims games, style games. So like you have the Sims 4. I lean into games like Subnautica, Minecraft. and then you have the other end of the spectrum, and I'm playing Blair Witch. I'm playing Alien Isolation. So it's like a nice wide variety of what I like to play. There's not like a specific pinpoint. It usually depends on the mood I'm in that one day.
Elix?
So this might come to to some of you as a shocking surprise, but I love playing Dead by Daylight. Started as a mini survivor and now I'm a killer. Love playing La Bruja. And we'll see, I'm the number one Bruja in the Milky Way. So yeah, mostly, I mean, on Twitch, I started playing Dead by Daylight. That was the game I've always played. But I also used to play a lot of Overwatch, and I loved playing support or being a sniper. So Overwatch was something I used to play a lot, but now something that really takes a lot of my time is Among Us, because that's where I really like to play my Mexican villainous telenovela alter ego, really being that snake when you're an imposter. I think some of y'all have experienced that. We've been in some games together where I can lie through my teeth. But yeah, those are mainly the games I play, but mostly Dead by Daylight.
I go through everyone. I look at Minx. Oh, hey. Hey, cool.
Oh, hey. I also play Dead by Daylight. No surprise. I think most drag artists here on Twitch play Dead by Daylight.
We're queer. It's fine.
It's just what we love to do. It's just fun playing with people. But I've played like Resident Evil, BioShock as well, Alien Isolation, and then I throw in some Animal Crossing here and there, just like bring some cuteness to the stream. But mostly Dead by Daylight, and I guess horror-esque games. That's where I typically like to play usually.
Well, this kind of brings us into our next segment, which is kind of like growing up with like role models and visibility. Who were some of your like Hispanic or Latinx role models growing up? I know for myself, Dana Paola, who's like essentially like in her 20s. I started watching her from like La Chica de la Mochila Azul, and like I watched her grow into like this amazing, successful like woman. I aspire to like be her. Anybody else? I look at Les. Who are some of your role models?
I don't know. I don't think that I actually really had any role models growing up, just because it went back to like my gender identity and my sexuality. It's kind of hard for me to see that representation within the Latin community or the Latinx community. And so I can't really think of anyone specifically as far as growing up and having a kind of a role model.
And that's A-okay. And that is completely fine. Minx, anyone for you?
Growing up, some of the biggest ones, I was like a Selena stan. Like I used to write like Selena plus Esteban equals like hearts. Like I had like t-shirts and everything. I remember my parents took me to watch the movie and I was sobbing at the end, like crying hysterically, and I was like 5 or 6 years old. Like I think that's when I realized that like Selena had died, and I was like mortified. People like Walter Mercado inspired me to like just live my like authentic self, like not give a shit what anyone thinks, be as extravagant as I want to be. I grew up like watching my mom watch like Christina on the TV, so like the sass and like, you know, the bad bitch energy that she had like hosting. So I think those were some of the like key people that I remember like seeing a lot growing up, and that were like some of the people that I loved.
Elix?
Oh gosh, so I was heavily influenced by a lot of music in Mexico or just Latin America. So for me, someone that I followed since I was a kid was probably Yuri, Shakira, Rocio Durcal, but mostly I identified myself with Shakira, even though she was a little bit older than me. I just followed her from before she exploded when I lived in Mexico until, you know, she exploded in just Latin America. And then she did the crossover in the United States, and I was kind of saw myself in her like, oh my God, I came to the US and now I'm doing it, you know, I'm doing the hustle. So yeah, Shakira is probably a huge inspiration for me. Also, I would say Thalia. uh, seeing her in a lot of soap operas I loved watching as a kid, and then growing into my teens, just seeing how her career went, from music and soap operas and movies, love that. And another one would have to be Salma Hayek. I used to see her in telenovelas, and then she did the whole huge crossover. Now she's like an Oscar nominated actress. Same with Penelope Cruz. I have so many, but I would honestly say mostly would be Shakira. Just seeing how she just went where she started and where she is now. And she's literally rubbing shoulders with like freaking princes and kings in some places in the world.
Diana?
Honestly, growing up, I didn't really have like a celebrity that I looked up to. If I had to pick a person, however, I would probably pick my grandma, my abuela, because um, she was the one that really got me in touch with my culture and my heritage. She was always showing me pictures of her home and the family that was still in Cuba, and being like, this is how it was, this is how we should do things. And she, God rest her soul, today has been 11 years since she passed. Oh my God, sorry, I like kicked my desk and this thing pops open. Um, she was the one that really got all the culture in. Like, she's taught me how to make a lot of like traditional Cuban dishes, and she was the one that helped really like my mom when she was a single mom going through everything. Like she was the brick, and she was the one that helped get me into in touch with my Cuban roots, with like Jose Martin growing up, reading those poems and all those things. Like, it was great. It was honestly, it was fun.
That's beautiful. Moving on to our next question, kind of still regarding the mass media itself. Apart from kind of like shows and TV shows that have a very centerized like Latinx Hispanic cast, do you see a lot of, if any, representation in Western media, including like games, TV shows, movies, that it's it's like they're the main character instead of like a very like supporting character or a very stereotype role? Do you see that in media? Do you not see that in media? We'll start with Elix.
Especially recently, I think I've seen a lot of positive representation within, if it's cinema, if it's games, or even just general music, all the collaborations from Hispanic artists with, traditional artists that sing in English. So I think that's a huge step forward. A few examples is one of my favorite movies from this year. Actually, probably my favorite movie was Knives Out. If you guys have seen that, the protagonist was this Hispanic girl. And so what I love about this representation is that it's not the stereotypical representation that people will do. Oh, let's just fill this box and let's just put that Hispanic Latinx representation on there so people think we're diverse, where it's just lip service. It's an actual genuine character with so much development. Like, I hate to say this, it's not Michelle Rodriguez from Resident Evil 1, where every line was like the most stereotypical thing a Hispanic person would say, or her background or her accent that she does not even have. So Knives Out was a great movie where they had representation. One of my favorite games, Dead by Daylight, has Jane Romero on there. And again, it's just not lip service. She has a very complex background. She happens to be a Hispanic woman, but she's successful in the United States. She has her own show, and then she kind of passed away the same way Jane Mansfield did in her gorgeous Cadillac. But it focuses on who she is. And even though she is Hispanic, that's not what it's all about. It's, she's still a human being, and she also partakes in all these other things. Where we're all, Hispanic, identify as Hispanic or Latinx, but that's, even though it defines some of us, it's not everything about us. And so those are just two great things in cinema and in games that I love. In Overwatch with Sombra, again, with the characters' development, it is not just lip service. They have actual intricate character stories where you do learn about their background, their Hispanic, Latinx background, but that's not what completely defines the person. So I think right now there's great representation. I mean, do we still need some work? I think a lot of, gaming companies and a lot of, movie companies or producers are doing a great job, but a lot of them are also doing a bad job where they're just throwing in the stereotypes. So they look like they're, also, raising the bar when in reality it's no, that's almost borderline racist because you're just throwing someone in there that's Hispanic or Latinx and you have every stereotype. Like, I'm not going to mention who did this, but you can't just slap a sombrero or maracas on something and call it Hispanic Heritage Month, That's, to me, is lip service and does not really have depth. And that's that on that, kitty cat.
Yeah.
Diana, any opinions?
Honestly, I think there is a lot of really good representation that is been seen recently. Like, Elix pretty much said a lot of what I could have said. I will say though, I would like to see a lot better representation because you still see a lot of people, like Hispanic people, still being kind of regulated down to the role of, oh, you're a thug, oh, you're just you're the drug dealer, and like, yeah, like, I mean, it's cool to see like in like those roles of like Narcos, like seeing like real people's lives and stuff like that, and seeing like that, but we're not all drug dealers. Not every single Latin person is a drug dealer. Not every single Latin person is a gang member. Like, come on, like, that's why Jane Romero was Oprah of the Dead by Daylight world, period. And we need to see more like that. Like, come on, like, are we not gonna forget Maid in Manhattan? They had J-Lo play the maid. You're gonna tell me J-Lo's the maid?
Did you still
No.
Screaming.
But I think it's gotten better as the years have gone by. 100%.
Love that.
Les, Minx, anything to add?
I think
Go ahead, Minx.
I think then like another thing that's just like going back to what Elix said with like crossovers. You see it a lot with different like music artists working with different rappers now and kind of crossing over to that mainstream like radio and bringing those names up, which is really cool. But as far as like the video games, like, yeah, like, of course, you want to see better representation, not just against stereotypes.
I guess for me, there has been kind of one show that has been trying to like kind of break out and to have some kind of representation as far as Hispanic representation, as well as someone who doesn't identify as a cis person, which is One Day at a Time. I've watched that show since the beginning, and that show has a non-binary person. The main person is lesbian or has come out. And they very much center the show around their Cuban heritage and how they navigate through that as well.
Does anyone have any shows in current Western media that would, like, I know you just mentioned One Day at a Time. Does anyone else have any shows that they would recommend people start watching to get a little bit more to see a lot more representation of the Latinx community inside the media itself? Like, for me, I love the show Elite. It's based in Spain. It stars in a high school. There is some murder mystery in it if you're into that. But like, they show the progression of the show and you get to really know these characters. And even if there's subtitles, read them. Anyone else? Any shows that you would recommend?
I've been religiously, and I mean, the show already ended, but really an amazing trailblazer icon in Spain, transgender. Oh gosh, La Veneno. It's called La Veneno on HBO Max. You guys have to watch that. It's so inspiring. It's heartbreaking, but you see what this woman did from the ground up to really pave the way for a lot of, women in Spain. And then it also, leaked into all of Latin America. People knew who she was. She was very famous. Started as a prostitute and became just this television sensation. But you also see how society and the men she decided to choose to be with, how they they were ultimately her demise. But yeah, La Veneno is great to watch. And also La Reina del Sur, I think that's also on Netflix. Love it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
about this woman who becomes the leader of the fucking freaking cartel. Like it is everything, and it's so dramatic. Great actress too. Love her. She was in New Mutants.
Yeah. So in a 2016 John Hopkins panel questionnaire, because I tried to do some research for this panel itself, someone by the name Eliana Gonzalez stated that the Latino identity is an American imposed ideal. It's like when you leave the U.S., there's no such thing as like Latino or Hispanic. In your point of view, do you agree or disagree? I for myself, I kind of agree. Just because when I was growing up in Peru and when I go back to Peru, it's like there's no such thing as like one, and I think that's what she means by this is like there's not one Latino. Like we're not just one country per se. Like when I go back to Peru, I'm like I can tell the difference between this person's Colombian, this person's Venezuelan, this person's Panamanian. Like they all have different upbringings. So I definitely agree with that. Opening up to discussion.
Yeah, I would also agree. Definitely if you were to go to Mexico, you're not gonna go and say like I'm Latino or Hispanic. You say I'm soy Mexicano, soy Mexicana, soy Latinx. You won't. It's more of like to that specific place and not just as a whole.
Yeah, like yeah, whenever we went to like whenever my family does the trips to Puerto Rico, we weren't like, oh, I'm Latinx, whatever. It was just like, yeah, like nosotros somos cubanos y yeah, and that was it. And then it was like, oh, and then it was the conversations with my mom, with everybody about like growing up and all that stuff in Puerto Rico, and it was just like, it was never anything beyond that. I'm from this place, period.
So the term Latinx has been pulled to, and this kind of goes into like a very like kind of talking about the gendered language that most countries have. Um, it's been pulled to not be used as much or even liked by cisgendered Latinos or Latinas. Do you think it has to do with like the language itself, like growing up being like very like cisgender oriented, or do you think it's just because they just don't want to use it? I'll start with. I point my finger. I look at Minx. Hey.
Not me being muted. Um, I guess like for me, I don't know. It's just hard for me to answer the question. I guess because like going back to like what Diane was saying, growing up, I had to like I guess I never walked around like, oh, I'm Latina, I'm not like Latinx. It was very much like soy mexicano, soy mexicana. I almost had to like look up like what the definitions were because I'm just not used to that. I guess I'm constantly like with our friends, they're I'm Peruvian or I'm Venezuelan, and like making sure that they're adamant about saying that this is where I'm from. I'm not just from like an umbrella statement.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, and I guess I do see some pushback. Like I think I saw it mostly like when I was in Portland because there weren't a lot of us. I was one of the like only Mexican drag queens, and the few that there were, Latinx just like kind of wasn't used really too much. It was very much like just Latina or Latino. It was Latinx was like a new thing that people didn't know what it was or like what it meant. And I don't know about y'all, but like my family's very stubborn. Like they're like used to like what they like learned, and like that's what it is, And so like trying to learn something new or like say like this is why this is a new thing for them, it's like this whole concept that they have to like sit down and like learn.
Les?
Yeah, even for like my close family, they know what I do. They know that I'm at least a lesbian. But I don't think that they actually fully know that I identify as non-binary. they've probably seen it like online on Facebook, and that's pretty much where most of them are. But as far as like my extended family, um, they still don't. I don't know if they. I'm sure they see it online, but I've never like had a talk with any of them regarding my identity, my drag, or anything like that. And so, along with like the language, that's all that they know. They either know Latina or Latino. And I think that most people are still trying to kind of get into using the term Latinx.
Elix?
Imagine if it was Hispanic slash Latino slash Latinx. That would be amazing. A huge step forward. I think it would be also globalized or westernized the use of that term, really making everyone pick up on it and really understand what it means. With my family, I don't really have, I mean, they don't understand what that is, at least in Spanish, the way we speak. They know what Latino, Latina is, but they're like, Latinx? Like, they look like a deer caught in headlights. What does that mean? Um, Everything is just so attached to your sex or gender, and it's very difficult to really have those terms. So when we're now finally using new language within our language, some people are absolutely going to accept it, and I love that. But you're going to have the traditional people who are very religious, or the people who have always been haters, who are not going to want to conform to new language or terminology, at least for something like if I represent myself as Latinx, which I do. There are going to be people that are going to be like, yeah, that's awesome. I learned something today. And then you're going to have people like, no, there's no such thing. It's either Latino or Latina. Which one are you? But anyway, I don't even know if I answered the question, but that's that.
Diane, anything to add?
Yeah, actually I do. I think the Latinx term is honestly, I think it's really important, and the reason why there's a lot of pushback, at least in my idea as to why there could be this pushback, is because of, well, what Elix said. It was very, the language is very hard gendered as either masculine or feminine, and that's also deeply rooted into the culture as well. Like, but beyond the language, everything. It's like, I mean, you watch these old TV shows. If you're the mom, the caregiver, you're usually very nurturing, very loving. They're not presented as businesswomen, and if they are, usually the villains. That
Yeah.
they're the evil ones, and it's like, it's very machismo. It's a very machismo thing. Like, um, everything is just, you can get away with, and this is speaking also from personal experience. I've gotten away with a lot of shit that my sisters did not get away with in any way, shape, or form. And it's based on the culture. Like, the men are treated significantly better than the women, and if you're anything but identifying as what you are, you're not going to get treated the same. You're going to get treated even worse. So it's like, that's why I think there's such a pushback to it. Um, and it's all one step at a time. Once we start breaking little holes in the wall, that's when things will start getting better for everything, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. For instance, with the language being so gendered myself, like not always, but I sometimes speak in Spanish in my chats if someone is like Latin or Hispanic and they come into my chat and just type in Spanish or the closest language Portuguese, and like someone asked me my pronouns in chat, and my pronouns are they them, but I did not know how to translate that in Spanish because it's either ellos or ellas. There's no neutral term for it, and I was very confused. I was like, um, no. But it personally made me feel like a little like gender dysphoric, just because I'm still like coming into terms with my own non-binariness, and I feel like, do we feel like together that there should be more, like going forward, be more neutral words, or like try to stop like stop saying them as much, regarding like the pluralization, making it plural. That word, I don't know how to say the long word.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I don't know. I go away.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think obviously like with everything changing, like this generation coming up, you know, they're obviously with like Latinx, they're trying to start coming up with those gender like neutral terms. So I think eventually it will happen. It's just again like what Diana was saying, it's like one little like just baby steps. You know, you start one little thing and it's kind of like a domino effect. Eventually it'll happen. But I think it should be important, definitely.
Yeah. Well, so another question kind of like for everybody, it's like being Latinx or being Hispanic, it's like do you feel like going forward it's gonna make our lives easier or harder in terms of like jobs, in terms of like representation in more media? Like I know we covered a little bit before, but do you like do you see future opportunities for you because you're Latino or Latinx? Do you think like that adds an advantage or a disadvantage?
I feel like if those options were available, then it would be easier.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, what I've seen, like those options aren't available, and so that does make it harder for for not only myself but for other people to express those things. And like how Elix was saying earlier about those check boxes that are on job applications, other applications, it makes it extremely hard, for someone to either have a job, apply for assistance if needed, anything that could need an application.
Very that, very that. I think why don't we, if anybody has any questions in the chat itself, if one of the mods can DM me some. If you can also use your channel points, 50 channel points, to ask some questions. It could be direct, it could be about any topic, as long as it's within TOS guidelines, and it's not offensive in any way, shape, or form, because we will not be taking those questions. Like we can answer
I think one thing. I just want to like add like one thing, because I like wasn't sure if it's gonna come up or not, but for one, like the things for me that I struggle with growing up was kind of being scrutinized a lot, like in middle school, because I wasn't Mexican enough, but then in other aspects I'm not American enough, you know. So it's just like, to me, I think also why I wanted to start incorporating into my drag is like, you might not feel this way, but that doesn't take away who I am and like my blood and mi sangre, you know. Like at the end of the day, like I'm still Mexican, like that's part of me, whether I'm fluent in Spanish or not. Like I feel like that's why I kind of wanted to like start incorporating it more into my drag, to just kind of say like, hey, like yes, this is who I am, this is part of me, like just to so people didn't forget, because that was one of the struggles that I like faced growing up, was just kind of constantly having people question it or like say that, oh, you're not enough, essentially.
Mm-hmm. To piggyback off that, and also circle back to your question, Marisol, in regards to either making it harder for you or easier, from a personal standpoint, just like Ming said, I mean, when I came to this country, I am visibly Mexican. I did not speak the English language, so learning it and having an accent all through elementary school, all through junior high, really, makes you alienate yourself, or, the people around you alienate you when you don't speak English. They are not, you can't really engage with anyone, but you also get poked at for that. You get treated differently for that. Also with stereotypes from someone with my upbringing, would be oh, this person, and this is unfortunately what I heard a lot, is this person's going to be a drug dealer, or this person's going to be in jail by the time they're 18, so on and so forth. So I had a very hard time having to prove myself, and it really conditioned me from a personal perspective to be very defensive. And I was always proud of who I was. There was a lot of Hispanic people around me, Latinx people around me growing up, because I did grow up in an area that was populated by mostly Hispanic people. And so a lot of them would barely speak Spanish, or I'm sorry, barely speak English, but they would be so ashamed of their Spanish. And I'm like, why are you so ashamed of speaking Spanish? And then you had the people who would make fun of you for, being Hispanic, and only speaking English. But then later on in life, now that we're adults, now they regret, they tell me, you know what, I regret that my parents never taught me Spanish. So which one is it, dude? Like, which one is it? And so that's from a personal perspective. From a business perspective, I think because of my personal perspective, I've conditioned myself to have to work harder than, you know, everyone else in the room to be treated or respected, you know, at least to be met halfway compared to someone else. So that really, you know, messed me up. At least everywhere I work, I feel like I'm a hard worker, but it's mostly because I have to work harder than everyone else because I happen to be Hispanic, and on top of that, I happen to be, you know, gay. And so yeah, it's just I would say it's making it it's made it a lot harder for me, but silver lining, it's conditioned me to be successful in life and to really be able to take on more than anyone else and really develop my emotional intelligence in a personal and business perspective.
Beautiful. Simply beautiful. Also this hair, but also you. Well, I did just get a message that's saying we may actually not be taking questions because we are reaching our 5-minute call time. Where can people find you? I'll kind of just go down the line. Where can people find you? What are some upcoming projects? And then is there anything that you would like for the viewers today to take away from this panel, or any advice in general? I will start with Elix.
Hi, everyone. So you can find me on Twitch mostly. I do drag exclusively for Twitch at twitch.tv/Elix, mis amores. I'm also on Instagram as Elix9, the number 9. And on Twitter, I'm Elix_9 is my handle. And I'm also on TikTok as ElixTTV. If you want to follow me on all of those social media platforms, you won't be disappointed. Also join my Discord, plumped. And what else? Do I have any projects coming up? No, not really. I'm just doing my thing, relaxing. And a big takeaway I would say is I've always been true to myself since I was a kid, and I've seen so many people be ashamed of their roots. Something I say in Spanish, la gente con el nopal en la frente, and treating their own kind like shit. And I'm just like, you have to be proud of where you come from. You have to be proud of who you are. Don't hide the fact that you have this culture. Don't hide your culture. You know, embrace it, admit it from you, you know, make it contagious. Make people experience another culture because you have that experience. And have people who might not surround themselves with people outside of their culture be influenced by that so they can have an understanding and a perspective of like, wow, this person's different. They come from a different culture. I'm learning so much. So high level, long story short, embrace who you are and just, you know, be you. Don't be ashamed of it. Like, be proud. If it's, you know, your whatever you identify yourself as, or your just your background, your heritage. And that's it.
I clap. Les.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch at Lesbiana. My schedule tends to be kind of sort of whenever I feel like it, but it is mostly at least 2 times a week. You can find me also on Twitter, Instagram. I have a lot of my drag on there as well. I might possibly be getting into the TikTok area. We'll see. But yeah, one thing that I would like to say is just like Elix said, you know, just be yourself, and just do your best. And also that the complaint of Hispanic people taking other people's jobs is absolutely not the case. 100%. And yeah.
Diana.
You can find me at twitch.tv/Miss Hole, as well as on Twitter, not Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Miss Diana Hole. You will catch me streaming whenever I find the time to do it, honestly, because that's the college life. And the takeaway of this is Elix honestly really just summed it all up at the end. The only thing that I will add on this is it's written right here on this sticker, if it'll show, that I was raised on croquetas, and that's how I choose to live my life.
Love that.
For a second, I was reading the Cuban bread one. And it's like I love Cuban bread. El pan
Oh my
cubano.
god, I love a good tostada y café con leche in the morning. Oh.
Oh, I love that. Minx.
You can find me on all social medias at Minx Queen. I keep it simple for everybody because it's just the best way, I think. Upcoming projects, I will be part of Unbothered Part 2 coming up soon. Details will be posted eventually, maybe in the next month. But it's an all POC drag show here hosted by MarisolLords and Lyndon Bradshaw. So I'm excited to be part of that again. And yeah, I think Elix just really said it. Like I said with Walter Mercado, just live your best life. Like live your life how you want to. Be authentically yourself. Like don't apologize for anything you do. Like just be proud.
Some final words for myself. Stay connected. Stay connected to your roots, even if you're in a faraway place that you can't. Like I live in a very red state, in a red area part of the state, and I find it hard to connect to my roots. So I like even by calling your family or calling a friend and just connecting, watching shows. Stay true who you are. Once again, my name was MarisolLords. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Cash App, and Venmo at MarisolLords. Definitely that Venmo. But we are ending our panel. Thank you everybody so much for being here. Up next, it is going to be a panel moderated by our one and only Diana Hall, featuring Elix, featuring Dear, Evil Queen, and Box Ghost, and Avidius 515. So stick around for that. We will see you all soon, and let's say adios on 3. 1, 2, 3. Adios.
Adios.
Adios.